Hello and welcome to the All of God's Daughters channel. This is episode 11 in the Preparing for Marriage series. We will be continuing with the book Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts by Les and Leslie Parrott. In the previous video, we started with the first of the 4 myths. Just a quick recap, the 4 myths are: we expect exactly the same things from marriage, everything good in our relationship will get better, the one we're doing today, and everything bad in my life will disappear, and number 4, my spouse will make me whole. In Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts, Dr. Les and Leslie states that not everything gets better. I would like to add that if you had problems or your spouse had problems before marriage, marriage won't make it go away. As I've read through myth 2, the thought struck me that the type of person that we are talking about is generally somebody that seems to not have given much thought to the realities in marriage, and it's just generally somebody that is still unprepared. And I don't necessarily think that it's wrong if you find yourself in this position, but then we can at least acknowledge that, alright, maybe I believe these myths, but now how can I fix them? For marriage, we have to be willing and ready to give up our childhood and leave your family. So this doesn't mean abandoning them or forgetting that they're alive or never seeing them again. It just means that your responsibility, your focus, where you belong, your new family is now with your husband. And we see this principle in the Bible. We talk about leaving and cleaving. And then also marriage just means accepting new responsibilities. You have new limits and perhaps new inconveniences. And I think that if you think in these terms, if you see these as sacrifices and oh, it's so horrible, then maybe you have idealized marriage. If you idealize marriage, then when real marriage comes along, you might end up despising your marriage because you thought marriage was something that it could not be in reality. The authors talk about trade-offs, losses, and they say that the most dramatic loss is the idealized image of your partner. I think that because this is a myth, it is best for us to enter marriage without this idealized image of our partner. So this is basically when we are in love, when we have this infatuation, and we of course have the healthy version of loving somebody. And we will talk about that a bit later in the video, so please stick it out to the end because I think that what we are about to discuss is really important for anybody who is already married or thinking about getting married. My husband referred me to the Berkeley Blog, an article by Rodolfo Mendoza-Denton, a professor of psychology. And in this article, they speak about awareness of the strengths and weaknesses of your spouse versus Hollywood romance. And I think that as we read through the content of what this myth is all about, we are basically dealing with Hollywood romance, so being in love or infatuated versus truly loving somebody. And I think that many times we idealize marriage, idealize our partners because we are not seeing marriage through God's eyes. And Denton also mentions in his article that this type of Hollywood love leads to dissatisfaction that shows up fairly early in marriage. Most people who marry with this type of mindset end up divorcing within 7 years. Alright, so back to the Parrots. They state here that this idealized image was planted there by your spouse putting his best foot forward before marriage. And I have to say that I partly disagree with the statement. I believe that we shouldn't pretend, and we should also be careful to recognize when somebody else is perhaps pretending. And I will talk a bit more about how we can actually see if this person is acting better than they actually are. So that's also a reality, that maybe this person is lying to you, but there's also the other side of things where you are looking at this person through glorified lenses. So in my opinion, to prevent this, we need to do 3 things. And the first thing I really recommend is asking around. I can, from personal experience, say that this works. And I've done this before I married my husband. I went around and asked people who's known him for years what type of a man he is, what type of reputation he has. I was very happy to find out that everybody had good things to say about him. And I think that that also made me feel a lot safer in my decision to say yes to my husband when he asked me to marry. Also, we have to be willing to find out who he is, and also to be willing to accept the person that we find if maybe what we find contradicts what we expected, or maybe is not exactly like the ideal that we had in mind. The third thing is we shouldn't accept vices that we are not really willing to live with. So let's say he is a habitual drinker and you don't want to marry somebody who drinks, or maybe somebody who habitually lies, or perhaps he has a pornography addiction. My opinion is that if you find out that he has a porn addiction, that it is best to postpone marriage until that problem is solved, because it is a major problem and is not something to be taken lightly or just to accept, because it will lead to real disappointments that has nothing to do with an idealized image, but is in fact a problem. So it is our responsibility to think beyond our emotions and to find out what vices does this person that we're considering for marriage, what vices do they have? And we have to be able to see the true person, and this means that we should not rush. You have to do your research. It's like making a business deal. You're not just going to buy a business or buy stocks in a business or a company if you don't know what this business is about, how their numbers look. It makes sense to make a good decision when it comes to a decision that will be a lifelong responsibility. So Dr. Les and Leslie Parrots says that we marry an image and later discover the real person. And I think that maybe it could be better said, or maybe we should rather look at it in terms of seeing a glimpse and later seeing the full HD image of the person that we've married. We must get it right. We must look beyond the surface. I almost want to say we have to look beyond our imaginations, our expectations, and our idealization of marriage and romance and of the ideal partner. So they quote a divorce attorney who says that the number one reason for divorce is that people refuse to accept the fact that their spouse is a human being. No person can live up to your idealized image. In other words, you have to look at him and forget your imagination. You have to discover your spouse. Then to finish, they say that disenchantment enables us to reach deeper intimacy. Back to Berkeley. In a longitudinal study that was published in the journal Psychological Science, they tracked 193 newlywed couples for a period of 3 years. The question that they asked is it destructive to idealize your partner as a perfect partner? They found a seeming contradiction where in marriages where one partner idealized another partner, there seemed to be less disappointment. So the question then is to idealize or not to idealize. But what they found is that it is rather about idealizing rightly. The way that we idealize matters. So it's not blindness. Once again, it's not this Hollywood type of love. We don't have a blindness to the vices of our partner, but we rather try to make our partner our ideal. So our spouse becomes our ideal. In the end, we're not saying that our spouse is perfect, but we are rather saying that he is not perfect, but he is perfect for me. Idealization that can reconcile a partner's imperfections seems to have protective effects for long-term relationships. So I'll be referring to this as protective idealization, where you look at your partner for who he truly is and basically believe the best of your partner still and believe that your partner is perfect for you. And this prevents us from seeing our partners in unrealistically positive terms. It also sets the stage for forgiveness or compassion, according to the research, and also gives us a greater willingness to support our partner. It also helps us to be less critical. This is the type of behavior that other research has shown to promote relationship health. How can we use this information to better prepare for marriage? First, we can recognize that having ideals is not necessarily wrong, but having unrealistic ideals can put our marriages in danger. And perhaps we can become the type of wife that says, yes, he is not perfect, but he's perfect for me. If this video was helpful, please click the like and subscribe button, and I hope to see you in the next video.